How are you doing? My name is Teppo Hudson and this is Sprinthack. Why is it so hard to get the software done and working? Why does it take so long to get it into production? Building something is hard, and here I am removing all those speed limits of your venture. This time I will talk with Magnus Hultman, the CEO of Safeture, a NASDAQ listed company from Sweden. The great aspects of this talk are how the company switched from project-based service to SaaS product. How do they do the product leadership in this new product organization? And what are the product team responsibilities? I'm excited, so let's get into it. Hey Magnus, how are you doing?
Very good. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Let's start off like a little bit of like introduction. Like tell us a little bit about Safeture and like what is your role at the company?
I'm the CEO of Safeture. I took over the reins of the company about 3 years ago. Before that, I've been in a whole lot of industry. I've actually been in the media industry for almost 20 years, but came to the conclusion I wanted to see if my business skills also work in other industries. Yep. So I switched to this company based on that I got a mandate from the board and the biggest owners of the company. This is a publicly listed company that I wanted to do a change of strategy, and that's where I came in.
Nice. And what does Safeture do, like briefly?
Yeah. Actually, the name before I took over was Global Warning System. I think it says a lot about it. But then Greta Thunberg completely ruined that name. Everybody called it Global Warming System. And that's not what we do. So we changed the name to Safeture, Safer Future. So Safeture. And what we do is localization and communication systems for large organizations. Basically to manage critical events. When something happens, how do you make sure that you can count in all those people that's being affected, communicate with them, and make sure to give them directions on what to do next. We normally work with big security companies, medical assistance companies, and risk management companies.
All right. Quite a good, I bet there's a good like need for that kind of security warnings going on, especially when everybody's a bit of like remote nowadays and so on.
Oh yeah. No, I'm not complaining there. No.
Yeah. So so you've been kind of the CEO of the company for about 3-4 years by now. Yes. And we previously talked a little bit like that. You mentioned that during that time you've kind of switched, or the company's been switching from being an IT company to SaaS company, and it's at least from product development perspective, it's been a huge change. Can you tell us a little bit about that shift?
Well, I can tell about my own due diligence I started doing of the company before I decided to join as the CEO. And what I found was a relatively small company based in Lund, south of Sweden, that has built world-leading technology within this space. They had fantastic companies from Siemens to IKEA and many others. And they had a nice packaging of the products. But the problem was they had a revenue of 15 million Swedish crowns, so 1.5 million euros. So it was a really, really small company. And I couldn't get my head around how something that was this good could not have a bigger turnover than that. So I decided to look into that and see how the sales guys were addressing the markets. And what I quickly found out was that the sales guys, they were not selling products. They were selling projects. And the soul of the company was an IT company rather than a software as a service company. And that is something that you cannot easily change, because SaaS is not a sign you put on the door. It changes everything in a company. It changes how you sell, how you market, how you do the product development, and every single bit of detail. And also how you measure the company, the performance of the company. So I decided to implement a new strategy for the company, covering all these areas. Today, we will primarily talk about the product side, and that I'm really excited about.
Well, that definitely kind of probably showcase your kind of a background in sales. Like you looked, especially how the kind of a turnover of the company was like relatively low for the market kind of a need, and you turn it over to be assuming like a product-led sales and that kind of recurring revenue that it enables. Can you kind of talk about like from product perspective and that kind of product leading growth? How do you like approach that product leading growth, or like selling the product in the sense?
No, it's a good point, because it's actually not something you could do right away. You first needed to decide what the product market fit was. So define the product in itself. What is the product and the packaging that we are selling? And then measure it. So for example, if you decide that you have a product to fit a certain purpose, you want to measure it in a way that you're actually capturing the value of the product, that you're actually measuring that it is a product. So we decided to go from just the revenue side over to recurring revenue. I don't even measure my total revenue. I only focus on the recurring revenue. So that was one of those metrics that was important to implement in the organization. Anybody can sell a project. Anybody can sell consultancy hours, but it's the really skilled ones that's good at selling products. So that was my first main objective. The second part was the positioning. So in order to not be a, how shall I call it, a small fish in a big pond, you wanted to be a big fish in a small pond. So narrowing down the market, because we knew every single enterprise out there, they were actually relevant for our product. But we also saw that the product market fit was together with the service providers, like the security companies and medical assistants. So we actually decided that it would be the partners that were our customers, not the IKEAs and not the Siemens. So already there you have narrowed it down quite a lot in order what you wanted to build. The second part was to decide how you should implement that on the product side and the development side in the organization. And that took some time. And I am from the business side, as you know. So this was really talking a lot with my dev team, my CTO and my CPO. So when I joined the company, we had a CTO. He was the Chief Technology Officer, and he decided how the development based on what sales have sold should be carried out. So switching that mindset, since it was the product that was the focus, we decided to have a CPO in the company. And he was brought in from the CTO's organization over to a separate entity, being the product team.
So you basically nowadays have like a product team and the tech team separately looking their own kind of operations.
And that's a big thing for a dev company to do, actually, because you can imagine how many how many glitches there will be when you do that. But so it started off relatively it was relatively understaffed, the product team initially. So we saw it more as the one deciding the product roadmap and what the product should fit. But then we also understood that the product team, they need to hold so much more. They need to be responsible also for the pre-sales activities. So they actually are the first ones to know what is happening out there in the market. They are responsible for the market research. It was used to belong to the sales team. Now it belongs to the product team. And they were responsible for for the roadmap in its entirely for the roadmap, and that is important. That it sits with them, and they are also the one ordering it from the dev team, not being a part of the dev team. I would say they are perfectly in the middle between sales, marketing, and dev. That's where we have a product. So it's a relatively broad scope, but we have tried to narrow it down as much as possible, because otherwise it will be cause confusion.
How much in your like in your opinion, let's say on this kind of a new product roadmap that the product team handles, how much do they kind of do this kind of validation with the market and the sales before it's even pushed to the tech at all? Tech roadmap.
Yeah, I mentioned all the measurement that we do in the company. What we did was to create something we call a product council. And before anything enters the product council, the product team, they need to vet all the submits that they have got. It could come from customers, from the sales, from the support team, etc. So all these, they need to vet it based on a couple of different factors. So whether it's in line with our strategy, whether there is a clear business value, how much work time, of course, if we have the available resources, if it takes different skill sets in order to develop it, etc. Typically something our CPO can elaborate a bit more, why we have decided to have these as the ones deciding what should go in and be prioritized in the roadmap.
Is there like from CEO's point of view, is something on those metrics, like you mentioned that one of their goals is to try to be in line with strategy, try to calculate how much it might kind of cost to do, and so on. Are those kind of metrics that you, in a way, or the CPO follows to make sure that the kind of product process is, productive enough? Yeah,
we try. I mean, having the product council, I think, is a good way, because in the product council we have the CTO, the head of sales, we have me as the CEO, we have the CPO, of course, and customer development. So those are being our customer success.
Yeah,
that's the ones that sits together and decides how we should do with the well, the product council, you could say, first it is a snapshot of how we are doing, how we are progressing on these things, and so that's first thing. So we know what will be expected from the rest of the organization. And the second part is setting the new prioritization based on CPO's suggestions. So, I mean, it's very, very tempting as the CRO or CEO to just say, we have to do this. But we try to base it on data as much as possible. And I think the model we have in order to decide of the different features and functions is really good.
Definitely. I personally, coming from tech side, I definitely see that there's a lot of maybe urgency to say, like, I know how this should be done, and just push it through, in comparison to doing like more scientific approach of validating stuff.
But this took some time. I mean, this took time to build. I would say that even if we started with the product council 1.5 years ago, so I started the company 3 years ago. It took 1.5 years just to get the business up and running, and then we decided to also do this shift from the technology side over to the product side. And it's not up until now, I believe, we've found a good way of doing it. One thing that helped us do this was actually having different types of tool sets. So we could work with it, and all could have a transparent view of the system. So it did not just sit with a product team. And there are several different platforms out there that does a really good job.
Yeah, it probably also it helps a lot on this kind of like predicting, for example, the company's development. You know, all the kind of then the metrics that the investors and the market kind of expects from a company when you have such a like kind of a controlled product development process as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and this is only the part where we still are the ones feeding in this data. I mean, so we will probably also need to have some type of NPS score but we don't have that today. So that is something that we look into implementing right now. So we actually get what should I call it? Not just qualitative data, but quantitative data into the system. We have around 3,000 customers, so we could really get quantitative data. But otherwise, it's normally the one who screams the most. Well, you know that. I mean, the customer that really wants something and said, "Well, I've been asking for it for a year." Well, yeah, but you know what? It's our inability to actually say no.
Because
that made it be there for a year.
True, like you said at the beginning, you want to focus on the narrow area where you can be a product, not do projects for each customer's unique
I mean, sometimes
request.
it makes sense, and you know, you gotta build for the customer, right? You gotta build for the customer, but it doesn't mean that they are right, because there is an old saying, and since I'm from sales, I like that. And there is this old saying that the customer is always right. I mean, no, the customer is always wrong, because they already have a perception of what they need. But we are the experts. We are the ones that should challenge their view constantly. All the time we should be out there, challenge them, because they are right since they pay, but they are not right when they say that they really want something. So, and that's a mindset thing.
True.
Can't just follow the money.
Well, I do think that's a very interesting, and at least personally, I think that's a very, you know, like advanced way of building products, well, at least a modern way to build products rather than maybe some of the more legacy ways of building tech companies, so on. But what do you think is kind of on that product routine that you run on through the product council to the kind of do this kind of product teams research and pre-sale stuff? Is there a certain thing that you think is pretty unique to Safeture? Or that you'd be maybe other way to think about it is that you are proud of the kind of a highlight?
No, I wouldn't say that there is something that is entirely unique. I think it's good that we really work cross-functional over the different teams in the company. So we have different views on different things. I think that's really a good way of doing it. I also believe that when you have legacy, you shouldn't be afraid of trying to do this separation, even though it might sound painful to do it, to have as an organization, have it organized separately with the different teams. You should really try to dare to do it. It will come with a cost. There will be lots of refactoring. There will be lots of other stuff when you do this. But the way we can scale now is just phenomenal.
What do you think about at the moment? Probably a lot of companies are struggling with their kind of a product and tech team recruitment, and you know, like companies have to kind of paint the picture, like why join your mission. So maybe at the end, what do you think? Why developers should join Safeture's mission?
Absolutely.
And
no, it's
like how life is for them.
No, but it is really tough because you are just another company out there. So you're not really top of mind. And that is something that when we look on it, we know we have great marketing and great sales people out there being very, very visible. And that's something we try to push in the dev and the product team as well. This is one example of it, that we actually want them to highlight them and show the skill sets that we have. Then there is the second part, and that is when we actually find someone. We have since we work in security, we have an extreme vetting process to really find super talents. We are very, very proud of it. But at the same time, we can't disclose too much of what it is about. Instead, we can just hint it. And when you're being a bit secretive, that normally gets a lot of attraction, actually. So it's like you're in a bar, right? You want to be a bit mysterious.
Oh, true. Yeah.
No, but it's true. It has worked for us to some extent. We also try to only have in-house resources, since we are both a publicly listed company and a security company with very, very important data sets, like positioning of important people and so on. So we try to do that, but it is hard because we live in a world where remote is becoming the norm. Yeah. So we need to adapt to that. I'm at home right now, for example. So it means that exactly. So that is the way. And if you say that we want to have them on site, but they're still working from home, right? Why can't we get people from Germany or from Italy or wherever? Because it's pretty much the same thing, I would say, whether it's the house next door or if it's in another country. So I think we will be more open to that, and instead we will be even more strict on our vetting process. I would say.
Definitely, and most likely, especially people in the tech and product professions. I don't see it going back to the kind of that everybody comes to the office every day.
No.
Maybe it's going to be some kind of hybrid model where you have the option to go to the office, but then if you want to work away for a week or so.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. I mean, there are other things in the world that complicates it. For example, if you spend more than, I think it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks in France, you need to submit to the local social security office in order to stay in the country. I did not know about that. So It's not just, I know. I mean, there are several things that complicates it. So it's not just go away. And I think that will take longer time to adapt, because I have friends, they've been down in France they're actually flying down pretty soon here and will be there all the ski season, but they can't, right? No insurances that will cover and stuff like that. So there are other things that needs to adapt. It's not just wherever you lay your hat is my home. It's not. It's just not true, actually.
True. Hey, Magnus, thank you. It's been a nice little discussion about the kind of a Safeture's product or business evolution, and I think especially it was really interesting to kind of understand a little bit of the kind of a product process, especially for like how you set up this product council and how you do the decisions. And I thank you. I hope that's been a bit of educational to people listening to this. Absolutely. It was a pleasure joining. Yeah. So I wish all the best for you, for Safeture, and I hope to see you soon then. Absolutely. The same. Thank you so much, Teppo.